So what is this YouTube channel thing you speak of, Robin?
Yes, it is a place where I play and upload my playthrough of the many Sierra games I've played.
What is it that you ask of me then, Robin? If you are uploading these videos already, I would highly recommend that the people of the internet click the like and subscribe button that is available.
My king, even though this Sir Thomas aided Robin Hood in defeating us, the channel is great.
It's true that Robin Hood did rob me of my robes, but he used it justly. And having watched the video on Let's Play Sierra Games, I approve of his actions.
It's free to click the like and subscribe button on the page. And the people of the internet should tell their friends and family about this wonderful channel.
What is your end goal, Robin Hood? What do you hope to achieve with this quest of yours on this YouTube channel that you do all of this on?
I am on a quest to try and get 1,000 subscribers so that I may be able to monetize the videos that I have created.
Alright, we're back with another playthrough of Let's Play Sierra Games. This time we're going to talk about Conquest of Longbow. Alright, let me start by saying that having played Conquest of Camelot, I already knew a lot of research was going to go into this game, and that what we have in Conquest of Longbow has so much more research. It's pretty incredible what they managed to pull off in this game. Sorry, I'm just lowering the audio on my side. I was hearing the music coming through as I was talking. A little bit distracting. I love the music, but hard to talk because then I would just want to listen to the music. So yeah, this game was made by Christy Marks, who also had made the first Conquest game, which was, as I said, Conquest of Camelot. This game was developed and published in 1991, and it features VGA graphics, which we can clearly see, and has basically Sierra's standard icon-driven interface versus the typing interface that we used to see in Sierra games. That icon-based interface was first introduced in King's Quest V, and naturally with the name like Conquest of Longbow, and it's called The Legend of Robin Hood, you can imagine you actually play the role of Robin Hood in an effort to basically raise enough money, essentially ransom money if you will, to rescue King Richard I, who has been captured by the sheriff and whatnot, who now sits on them. And this troubadour that we see here gives us a quick little summary of what is going on in the game. So it talks about how he sailed across the sea. And this is the setup that I was just talking about for our good king who is ambushed. It's interesting, you see like 2 men attack him, but in that screen here you see 4 men around him. It's also interesting, he looks a lot like Robin Hood with the blonde hair and the mustache and the little goatee. The King Leopold has captured him. And sorry, I said earlier it was the sheriff, but the sheriff is the one who keeps sending men. It's actually King Leopold who has him. is such a good intro. Like it explains the story in such a great way. And so we're going to get introduced to those who are with Robin Hood already. So we see Little John, Alan Adale, the troubadour, who I seems like would be, and then the miller's son, who. Okay. Then we have Scarlet, who's good with the bow, and Friar Tuck, and of course, the glorious leader of it all, the character you play, Robin Hood. So we start the game. We are inside Robin Hood's cave. You can see there's a horn. Get the horn. And over there is basically it's the money. Like whatever little money you already have. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty styling cave too. And it does seem rather remarkable that the sheriffs never found them, because it's not like they're hiding these tables. These tables are just out, look like a good picnic area next to that stream. So it's very odd that the sheriff's men had never found Robin Hood. And so each of them is kind of giving you a clue where to go. So one of them, like Little John's headed for the Overlook. And thankfully I'd played this before several times. But I remember when I first played this, just watching everyone kind of walk around. Before I got around to saving the game, I was literally just wandering around the woods, looking for where all these people went, unaware that actually if you go up into the, up where you would normally save your game at the top, there's actually a map that you can look around. And you can quickly get to spots. Now you can see that Friar Tuck is also left after consuming a good meal. So you want to, you will definitely want to become somewhat familiar with the forest. Not so much where I'm walking around now, but later on you'll see, we'll discover an oak tree. And there will be a portion of the game in which first that guy who just ran by, but we don't have what we need to capture him, and capturing him is a nightmare. So this is the Overlook, but we'll eventually get to where there's an oak tree, and we're going to kind of need to know how to get to it very quickly when the sheriff's men are pursuing us. And so Little John gives us a little clue about, hey, hanging out here, we can see people come by. And then when they do, we can just venture down onto the road to greet them. So this is what we normally do if we see someone from the Overlook, come down here and take a look. And there we go. We see a woman being pursued by a guard. The woman says she's done nothing wrong, and the guard says she's my prisoner. And without much more, we just shoot and kill him. Because whatever. And every time we do something cool on this Overlook pass here, we always blow the horn and summon our good friends to help those that we've helped. So it's always kind of nice to, I will say, so you can see there's a difference of the keep and give. If you've watched my playthrough on Camelot, the first time I played Camelot, I gave too much money, which eventually dead-ended me in the game. But in this game, there's a number of things that will come your way that will put money in your purse if you do a few things correctly. In this game, there's only a few arcade sequences. So for example, just a moment ago, we saw that little guy running around. We'll see him again and we'll have to actually catch him. The thing is, he is very, 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 very quick. And when Robin needs to throw the net that we need to use to catch him, Robin is not as quick as him. So it took me, at least, it took me quite a bit of time to finally catch him. There is a second arcade sequence, which I could not figure out. So eventually we'll go inside of this, call it a monastery on a moat, and we're going to rescue someone. And part of the arcade sequence is you have to descend down the wall, and they're chucking rocks at you as you're trying to descend down the wall. And I could move side to side very, very easily to dodge the rocks. However, there was nothing I could do to descend downward. I was trying the up key, the down key, like every key I could think of, and Robin Hood would not descend downward. I died. I think I kept like 10 of the deaths to show like my effort. But I ended up turning down the arcade sequence all the way, thinking I'm just going to make this as easy as possible. I assumed they're just going to throw rocks down slower and allow me to figure out how to descend, because they chuck the rocks pretty quickly. But turning the arcade sequence all the way down, I actually just bypassed it, which by this time, having died, I think, like I said, I think I only saved like 10 of the deaths. But by the time that had happened, I was already kind of done with that arcade sequence, because I was like, I can't figure out how to make him descend. So the fact that I bypassed it was okay with me. I would say, if anything, that is probably the only two things I did not like about this game. The story is incredible. The characters that they have in here, including Little John, Friar Tuck, and all that, they all have great dialogue, especially when you start making plans to do things. Each of them has an idea of what we should do to, do what we have to do. I'm trying not to spoil it already this early in the commentary, but we'll get to it and you'll see. The music is fabulous. The scenery is amazing. Like, everything about this game is so good, but so is arcade sequences, man. It was the same thing for Camelot. Like, when I played Camelot, if you've watched that playthrough, there's an arcade sequence where you have to basically kill 3 boars in a row. And you can't save while you're on that screen. So, for example, if you kill the first boar, you cannot save on that screen. You have to kill all 3 or do all 3 all over again. And then in Camelot, there was another, I guess you could call it an arcade sequence, where there's frozen ice and you have to walk across it. Before I realized that there was items you could use, I was literally just walking a few steps, save, walk a few steps, save, walk. And I found out there's 2 items you can actually use. I ended up using one of them to help guide you. So I used the heart. There's a heart that you get, a frozen heart. And even with the frozen heart, with how quickly Robin would walk, the heart flashes if you're in danger. I still died quite a few times. So again, this is one of the areas I'll show you. We'll eventually start using the map, but right now I'm just kind of walking around. But this is the area where you'll meet the Fair Lady, Maid Marian. So there's the map. So if you want to shoot around very quickly, you can kind of look to see what each of those areas are. I mean, I even love that on the map, the water's animated. Like, they took so much effort into making this game look so good. Like, by far, probably, in terms of, like, Zero Adventure games, the water back there looks amazing. Like, it actually looks like it has flow. It's not just like, I mean, I'm sure it is just a few lines moving, that they're moving back and forth, but it makes it look legit like there's water flowing. So, I'm very easily pleased with stuff like that, because I think water is very, very difficult. And here we go. So this is another area that we got a clue about that we can go see and do this. Now, what's odd is this area here isn't on the map, if you will. You literally have to walk to this one. So this one does take wandering around to find it. And so we learn that Simon here is someone who is declared an outlaw, so he has joined Robin Hood's little gang here. I think this is one of the areas that I did not get all the points. So this game is very similar to, it was Quest for Glory 3? Yeah, I think it was 3. In Quest for Glory 3, there was a spear throwing contest that you would have to do, and it would have that flag with the wind. But this is pretty much setting you up for the contest that is later on in the game, where you have to shoot an arrow at a target that's very similar. It has the flag with the wind. And while I was doing this, I wasn't sure how to reload the arrow. If you hold down and click on Robin's hand, you'll reload an arrow, FYI. So if you're wondering why I'm coming in and out, that is why. Because I'm shooting an arrow, and then Robin isn't reloading. See? So I'm pretty sure you're supposed to shoot an arrow, probably do that split trick. So at that time, couldn't figure out how to reload the arrow. So these 3 young boys will eventually also join because they'll get accused of being sided with Robin and whatnot. Then you can also talk to the sheep. And the sheep is not the only animal you can talk to that actually has... He's pretty funny. He's an angry sheep. The sheep is not the only animal you can actually talk to in this game. Later on, we'll go to the fair, if you will. And there is, I think, a mule and a pig, or hog, whichever it is, that you can also talk to. So we see here, this is one of those areas that I was talking about where the characters have a lot of cool dialogue and depth. Robin Hood's not feeling great at the fact that everyone is an outlaw and they won't walk as free men and whatnot. Listen, I know those are graphics, but I love how she looks like when she's raising her hands like that. It looks so good. Now we know Maid Marian. And so even though it was a dream, it would appear that Robin Hood may have actually gone there and picked up the emerald. Or the emerald was transferred to him through dreams. Tell me what you think. Was it transferred through a dream, or did he actually walk out there and meet Maid Marian in reality? Let me know in the comments. So they talk about how he looks a little worse for the wear after his binging of drinking at the camp. But he does seem to have a strange glow about him, and it is because of Maid Marian. And that's actually a pretty good description. Raven hair, that stuff. that he shows Emerald and he goes, "What do you think of that?" "Well, you should have more dreams like this, then we'll be rich." So now we have a mission to go see Lob in the city of Nottingham. And whatever Lob has to say, it concerns the king, King Richard. And he wants us to bring a lady's slipper to prove that we are who we are. So even if we had the slipper, we can't just walk into Nottingham because we're wanted, and we would quickly be killed. So now we need a way to both get a slipper as well as a disguise. I'd come here first thinking maybe there was a slipper there as well. And next we can go to her to see if she has a spare slipper. I'm just going to make our way around the map, see if anything comes our way. So this is the oak that I was talking about that we'll eventually need to be around to use and hide. So you can see, dare not set foot. There's this freaking monastery that's on the lake that I was talking about earlier, about the arcade sequence of scaling down the wall. Now, I will say, with this game, you're going to need the manual for the game, because most of it you can kind of find in the game, but you'll get asked questions of specific, like a crest, of what a certain crest that you'll be asked to find. And I'm pretty sure, so when I was told to find the crest that I needed, I'm pretty sure that's randomized, because in the manual there's literally like 20 crests that you need to look at. So you'll need it for that, to make sure that when you go to the crest and they're showing you the right one. But also, speaking of that monastery, there's something you need in terms of what the manual mentions, the different types of plants. And you'll need to know the specific plant name, if you will, and then spell it a very specific way. You'll learn eventually, like the Druids' language, if you will. So that had me stumped for a while. Like, I was pretty sure it had to do with the tree thing again, because you will find something that has a clue about a bunch of trees, but none of it really talks about ivy. So then I cracked open my manual and was like, is there something in here that talks about ivy? And sure enough, there was. So there is no indication at all in the game what you need to do for this ivy thing. But if you read the manual, you'll see it. So the manual is definitely required for this game. If you get it from GOG, which is Good Old Games, the manual is included and all that fun stuff. So if you do not have this game and you would like to play it, I would strongly recommend getting it from GOG. So at this point, I'm literally just wandering around the woods, wondering if there's someone out here that's lost or needs help, because this slipper thing seems very, very odd to request. So I'm just kind of walking around. And what do you know? And not only is it a woman, but it's Maid Marian. And I will say this about the game. Robin Hood is not one for talking. Like, shoot first, ask questions later. And look at that, she gave us a slipper also. And her icon, like her little picture, talking picture, is very pretty for you know, like graphic games. Her face is very pretty. So they did such a good job of making her actually look very, very pretty as well. So now we have our slipper. But we still have the issue, we still need a disguise. Because if we go into town, they'll just kill us. And just like always, every time we help someone, just blow the horn. Alright, so it's the following morning. We're halfway through the first part of our quest, which is getting a shoe. See if she appears here. I'm gonna head to the overlook, see if anyone shows up. And sure enough, you can see what looks to be a peasant, so we're going to make our way down. And thankfully Robin Hood, when you talk to him, death isn't always the solution. So what we're going to do is we see a beggar with a hunchback. And what we're going to do is basically pay him for his clothes and give him a new set of clothes. So he was on his way to Nottingham to beg, but we gave him enough money. And now we're going to call our men, because we've helped him. And we're going to get him some new clothes, and we're going to take his. And he says, put the clothes in my cave. So now we've got the slipper, and now we have the disguise of being a peasant. I have no idea why I decided to try to walk the path. Bit much quicker? Yes, just to use the map. Alright, so there's the cobbler. Now I don't think I ever figured out anything with that woman. So I don't know if she's there for a reason. I'm sure she is. No one's typically in the game for no reason. But I don't think I ever did anything with her now that I think about it. So if you know if that woman is used for something, let me know in the comments, because I don't think I ever did anything with her. So we learn that the queen is trying to raise money to get King Richard released. So he works with Lady Marion, and he's going to find out when this huge sum of money is coming through the forest, and we're going to take it. That's the plan. So now that we have disguise, we're going to try to go visit a few places in town. So you can see the church basically denies giving anything to a poor old beggar, which is not a really good look for a church. Nothing to do at the tavern, so we'll go ahead and leave the tavern. So we'll close another night, getting rid of the beggar's clothes. And pretty much what you should do at the start of or throughout the game is always go to this overlook, because people are always coming through here all the time. And once again, and they make, by the way, I think it's called the Wilhelm scream. They make heavy use of that scream. So every time Robin has killed someone, it's the Wilhelm scream. And there is a scene when we go for that ransom that we were just talking about earlier. They just layer it on top of layer of layer of layer of that Wilhelm scream. That's great. So what we need to show her is actually the comb that Lav gave us. So we're learning that they're already suspicious that something is up, and that eyes are on the queen. So now we need the hand scroll. So she talks about that she dreamed of him as well. So it looks like their dreams. Got another day down. So we learned that it would appear that Friar Tuck has a thing for the widow in the woods. now we've learned that her 3 sons were arrested. The 3 that we saw earlier. Now we have a new mission. We're gonna have to go save them. So we've encountered, there were 2 monks, so it doesn't matter which way it goes. So we're gonna go ahead and take his robes and use that for disguise and bring this monk who is way out of shape and basically profited while others suffered. Friar Tuck is gonna make him cut some wood. So this monk will go here first. And this took me a while to figure out how to move about the room and actually go into the rooms. Like, you can click on it, but there's a number of other rooms. Like, this is the laundry room. Like, I was just clicking the eye. You have to actually double click with the hands. So we know that the 3 sons were abducted, so naturally take the 3 robes. So we can see there's a maze here. And it's actually, if you go through the other door, it's actually not that difficult of a maze. I'd restored at this point, and I was actually starting to map where I needed to go. Because I haven't even found like where the exit is yet in this maze. That was another thing that bothered me. Even though I was clicking up, he would walk down in some areas. And there at the very top, you can faintly see a door. So at least now we know a goal of how to get there. See, again, I'm clicking to the right, but then he walks to the left. Every time. So it just got easier just to use the keyboard at this point to move through the maze. And we can already see that if we now go down and up, we can actually get out through that door. Or we think we can get out, we actually can't. You'll see in a minute. So this is the Witch's Court, which is enclosed stone wall with wooden gates. This is where they burn witches. Or those accused of being witches. This is pretty much just a FYI. They're showing you this scene in this maze and how to get here, because eventually we will have to make our way back here for something, and you only have so much time to do it before things start happening. So you need to be able to basically maneuver through the maze pretty much flawlessly to get here and do what you need to do in time. Is either Maid Marian dies or you die. I will say that, like a lot of the Sierra games I've replayed repeatedly over the years. Like for example, sometimes I'll just throw in like King's Quest 2, 3, 4, whatever, or Leash Suit Larry, or Police Quest, and I'll go through those and play them. Man, I forget how good Conquest of Longbow and Conquest of Camelot are, because the King's Quest 3, yeah, that requires needing the manual for the spells. That's pretty easy. You can actually write down the order of the spells pretty quickly on a piece of paper and have that set. Conquest for Camelot and Conquest Longbow both take much longer because they have, they have more complex copy protection stuff in there, like all the plants, all the shields, all that stuff. You can prior to these days where everything's on PDF if you get it through GOG. Sure, you can photocopy it, but the Conquest of Longbow book is actually pretty thick, as well as Camelot, and I think that's on purpose. That if you're gonna Photoshop it, they made it like a very tight bind and a lot of pages, so you would literally have to basically break your book in order to do it. But now everything, like I said, through GOG and stuff like that, it's on PDF. So again, if you want to play a lot of these Sierra games, I would highly recommend using GOG. A bunch of them are on Steam as well, but Steam requires a client and all that other stuff, whereas GOG doesn't. You can actually download just the game itself without any client and just use it through DOSBox, or I don't care for it, but it's ScumVM as well. I have not all, I have 98% of probably all the Sierra games that are adventure games myself. So I have extracted those off of the CDs, off the discs I have. Some cases CDs, sure. But I also purchased them on GOG and Steam, everywhere else, just to basically show support of these games. So first we're here to get some drink for what's his name that we just saw in the castle. I was blabbing, but now we're going to play this game. And first time I played it, if I'd read the manual, the manual explains all of this, so it would have been much easier if I'd just read the manual. But it's basically, it's almost like tic-tac-toe the way this game works. You basically have to get 3 in a row. So the first time I played it, I was literally just playing to mostly lose because I wasn't sure how the game ran. And so I watched how he played, the guy that we're playing against, I watched how he played it. And then I came back and like first time he decimated me, like he was taking my things like left and right because I wasn't sure. Like I knew it was like 3 in a row, but he decimated me the first time once all our pieces were down. And second time, pretty sure I decimated. I don't think he got any of my pieces the second time I played. So yeah, you can see I'm not even sure how to move the pieces. The way it works is you can move it to an occupied space that is within that line, where a line is available to you. He's like just decimating me. But it was cool. It was cool to come back and actually, after I understood the game, to come back and win it. I think it was on my second try. You can just see he's killing me in this game. Eventually I just learned, like, if you get basically kind of like 2 or 3 that are very close where you can always do 3 and just move them back and forth, you can easily win the game. So once he had me down to 2, I wasn't able to win after that, because obviously you can't get 3 in a row if you only have 2 pieces left. And so if we win, we get it's an amethyst that you can put in a drink, and you can drink as much as you want and you'll never get drunk. So it is a magical amethyst, supposedly. That was a Coke Zero. If you've watched any of my playthroughs, I often talk about how I drink a lot of Coke Zero. But here we go. We're gonna go into this game and we're gonna decimate. Oh wait, it might be game 3 that I win, because this is looking this is still looking pretty bad for me. Yeah, so it's game 3. And now I've pretty much got them all the time, because I can do 3 in a row very, very quickly. I did forget right here, you'll see, forgot to grab one of his pieces, so. See, I could just make 3. Once I had those 3 right there, it was easy. The inside, and then create 2 lines. There we go. And he does warn that you can only use it once. And he talks about how the abbot better pay up, because he's just accruing a huge debt and never sends the cast back, so. And there we go, a secret passage. And there's 2 ways to go, so naturally we're going to save and see which way does what. Let's go up the dark way first, which actually is a very short passage. So Roger and Giles, these two guards, show up quite a bit. We'll see them again. And the fact that one of them is named Roger will play into a joke later on at the fair if you talk to some of the people. So we've got his ale. Have a sit and drink. And so what we're going to want to do is use that stone to put the stone in our drink. And there we go. We've put the stone in the drink. All right, so we're going to sit here and basically talk to him and use the crystal so that we remain sober, however, allow him to continue consuming his drink, which will get him intoxicated, and he'll reveal a little more. And there he goes. Eventually he passes out, and thankfully the amethyst allowed us to remain sober through the whole thing. Now we can go through his purse, get some things, and we can either, I believe you can either exit through the tapestry, or I think you can easily just walk out the door as well. And now we're able to get into the abbot's room. So we need to quickly search through the room, move the pillows around, see if they're under any pillows, because that's where people hide stuff. And sure enough, that's where it's at. So make sure to move the pillow back, so it's not very obvious that someone may have taken it. And always, because it's a Sierra game, click on everything. So we bring back the cask, and because never brings back the cask, but he says he refuses to basically fill it and return it. So we're going to give him a little bit of money for the troubles. And so we're paying the abbot's bill. And now that we've kind of showed him that we can take care of it, he's letting us through here again. So we're gonna go see what Roger and Giles are up to. That's the two guards here. Again, Roger and Giles appear a few times throughout the game. So now they would like a drink from the pub. They need some money. And you see, he talks about the guy that we just played that game against. And they only need 4 pennies. He's got 2 farthings, and that's it. So now they've both left, leaving that area empty. So what we want to do is trick them and put some money on the table, the amount of money that they need to basically get a drink, which is the 4 pennies. And we're going to get out of here, and I assume they're going to come back, because he already owes the guy money. And they'll eventually see that there are the 4 pennies already sitting on the table. So they will know that they have enough to go get that drink that they so badly desire. Now they'll both go. So this will give us time to do what we need to do next. Because when we went in there, you'll notice that little pit floor. Go ahead and crack that open. And down below is the widow's 3 sons. But now how do we get them out of there, right? So we have those robes. So we use the monk's belts to basically create a rope to get him out. It's interesting because the guy on the far right, who was there a moment ago, kind of looks like the hero from Quest for Glory, from Quest for Glory 2. So now we are in the tunnel. We got them dressed up as monks. And I'm kind of curious if we could have gone the way of going through the tapestry. I bet you that part's blocked off or you get caught, though. I never did test that. I should have, because that might have been interesting to see. Through the tavern, we can see that the guards and all of them are out there, and they seem to be having a really good time. In the very short time that Robin basically went into the cavern to go rescue the 3 boys. And there we go. The 3 sons are rescued. Again, the one to the far left here kind of looks like the hero from Quest for Glory. And if you haven't already, you should check out my playthrough of the Quest for Glory series. I did Quest for Glory 1, 2, 3, and 4. The Quest for Glory 1 that I did was the EGA version, because I actually have Heroes Quest prior to it being renamed to Quest for Glory due to legal reasons. So you should check that out. I do plan on eventually getting around to doing the VGA versions. So like I've done Legendary and Police Quest and Quest for Glory and King's Quest, but I haven't done the VGA version of the first game for each one. So that is definitely in the works to do eventually as well. But since the games are still similar, but just little more beautiful. I wanted to move on and do other games, but I'll definitely get back to doing those VGA versions. So it's the following day. We're going to change back into our Robin Hood attire, and you'll notice he keeps the monk uniform. So we're told about the Overlook. A lot of monks have been coming around. And then that we still need to get the scroll that the Maid Marian needs. So here we are. We see another monk. This one in dark robes. So instead of going to kill him with a bow, which we should probably just do, but then the robe has a hole in it, we need it for disguise. We're going to do some fighting with a staff. I think this took me 2 tries. In terms of this combat, it's not too bad. It is basically another arcade sequence, but it's trying to figure out how to control it. Combat is very similar to the combat that you see in Conquest for Camelot near the end of the game, where you fight the one phantasmal knight, if you will. And so down he goes for Robin Hood. So we get to see the landing. And I think this happens 2 or 3 times. Now granted, because this is the commentary, the game is sped up. The original playthrough is like 6 hours, and this is sped up to 3 hours, so it's kind of going twice as fast. So the combat is not actually this fast, but it is still pretty fast. And so second playthrough, I was able to get it because I did a more defensive thing. So now we have yet another disguise. Now we have the disguise of essentially the monastery that is floating out in the water. Not this monastery. This is actually just a little bit of bonus. Come in here and use your disguise as an opportunity to trash talk the abbot. So see, now Lob is gone, and still can't figure out what to do with her. So again, if you know what to do with this woman, with the tailor woman, can you let me know in the comments? I know for a fact I didn't get the full score, and I'm not even sure if there's a way to see your score in this game. Like in Conquest Camelot, it did it by like honor and soul and something else. Oh, the score is in the upper right. I was so used to Camelot, I just realized it is in the upper right. But I know for certain I did not get that full score. So I imagine I did miss something with that tailor woman, because Sierra rarely put things in place without a reason. So kind of just walking around, see if I can get anything extra. In terms of, because now that we have a disguise, we can kind of move around and see what we can do. Because the way Sierra often works is once you have like these triggers, right? Now that I'm wearing these robes, some of the areas may change. I might see something different suddenly appear. And Sierra's often pretty sneaky about hiding things for you. If you go rush to do what you have to do, like go to the monastery that's floating on the lake, is what I actually need to do. If you just go straight for that, you might miss an opportunity to see something else. For example, going to the monastery in the kingdom and trash talking the abbot. Well, not trash talking him, but saying that the leader that you follow as this monk in black robes is basically trash talking the abbot. So it's kind of cool to do little things like that and find little areas that, you know, were put in there just in case you do something different. So having seen nothing really different, we went to the different areas. Now we're going to go to this monastery. Again, I love how the water looks. You do such a good job graphically with this game. Just kind of making sure that there's nothing over here. See if there's anything to pick up, anything to use. And looking at those 9 gemstones, we're going to need to know those 9 gemstones because we're about to be quizzed on them. Again, that water looks really cool. Right, nothing cool or extra to find, so we're going to blow this pipe. We hear someone coming through the fog. There he is, way over there. I heard your signal, brother. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and step in and escort us through. And boy, this is once again where I was talking about earlier, where you need the manual for this. You definitely will need it for this because each of those gems in that bag has basically special power. Where's my notes? So I ended up when I opened up the manual, I ended up scribbling it down because I hated alt tabbing over to the manual to look at it as a PDF, and I don't have a printer to print it out myself. So a lot of the stuff in the manual I actually drew on this. I can't hear it, but I used to collect comics a long time ago, but back in 2020, I stopped collecting comics due to my wife's health issues. I can't afford it anymore. But I have a bunch of comic backboardings, these here. And so what I did is, later on you'll see that when we get the scroll for the hand, which we're going to get here in this monastery. It's basically a hand and it has letters on it. And that's how you can spell things. So actually, it's so dumb. I actually traced my own hand. I don't know why I didn't just draw a hand, but I actually traced my hand on this board and then I wrote the letters down. But for the gems on the other side, I literally redrew that bag and basically listed what all the gems are. And you'll see he'll give a situation and as to something is wrong, like, oh, if I were to have what is something that pulls to the sky, you know, as one of the questions, that would be in a gate. Because one of the things, it's divine attraction that pulls towards the sky. It cures lunacy and melancholy. I don't even know how to pronounce that anymore. But it protects sailors, and for example, the turquoise brings luck, protects you from falling. The sapphire cures boils. It is considered like a stone of destiny. Like each of these have like 4, usually, no, the opal only looks to have 3. Most of them have 4 things. So like the lapis is let's see, cures eye stuff. It is a stone of truth. The amber cures a fever. The jet averts evil's eyes. The opal is known for invisibility and unites colors. The quartz is used to call fire from heaven. So you'll see he asks these number of questions, right? And so it's usually so it's usually 3 situations, and you have to select each gem. And I don't even think the gem has to be in order. It just has to be the 3 that he's talking about. But at the time before I started drawing it, I was alt-tabbing back and forth. And so I was dying quite a bit because I wasn't getting it exactly right because I was too busy trying to alt-tab back and forth because this game's recording, right? So I don't want to spend a lot of time alt-tab, reading a PDF, making sure I got it right, scanning the PDF, and alt-tabbing back and forth, essentially. So I ended up eventually just drawing it, and it was much quicker to go through that because I just put like, cures like blindness. And if it was some form of a cure, I highlighted it in yellow. If it was like something about it's a stone of truth or, a stone that summons fire, I highlighted that in green. So that way I could quickly look at what he's saying and then look at my little cheat sheet that I wrote on and quickly move through and say, oh, okay, so I'm looking for something that cures blindness. I just need to look for one color that's highlighted because a number of these things cure different things. So like the jet cures snake bites, for example, but the amber cures a fever. It also cures blindness and deafness. The gate cures lunacy and melancholy. Why am I even going back to that one to say? Try to say that word again. And like the sapphire cures eye disease. So you can, by color coding it on my, because I don't want to keep looking at the PDF. It made it much quicker, and I was able to finally pass it. So that's why the saves were called Need the Manual, because I was alt-tabbing back and forth, and it was too much of a pain. Alright, so now we're going to move about to the inside of the monastery. And it's similar to the monastery that is in the kingdom. You have to go into the room. And so the leader here says, hey, I don't recognize you, so we're just dishing out a fake name. And basically BSing our way to say that, yeah, no, we believe in the cause. But we're actually here for the scroll of fingers, if you will. Or the hand scroll. Alright, so here we are, and he's talking about how the abbot is a fool, and if he had his way, there's no way Robin Hood would escape him, even though Robin Hood is no more than like 30 feet away from him. So now we're going to wander around, because he talks about that he's going to go torture someone. And going inside, we can see that the guy's title, Prior, is in here, and he's talking about how he has never seen such resistance in a fool, and that if we can, see if we can get him to break. So the first thing we're going to try to do is basically lower him and get him untied. But naturally, he's going to believe this is all a ploy because he just literally heard the guy say, hey, see if you can find a way to break him. So we discover this is King Richard's jester, and that the prior has a box of his that has a special riddle to it. And that's what the prior is trying to get info on, how to open this box thing that he has acquired. And he talks about how he won't leave until we can prove that we're here for him, and that's by going and getting a scroll that he needs and returning it back to him. And we can see the prior's in here, and he's going to be like, what? I told you to basically break the jester. And then Robin says, oh, you know, someone else arrived to say that they're going to torture them. And the prior's like, well, I'll punish you both later. And right there we can see there is a cup on this table. And we essentially need him to leave because there's a bunch of scrolls back there on that back wall that we need to take a look at. So let's go ahead and spill that and make him very upset so that he leaves. So everything around here seems locked, but there is that wall of scrolls back there. And there's a lot of them here. So I'll tell you that the two that we need are here, the hand scroll and the scroll for the jester. And because there's a lot of dialogue. Again, so much research went into making this game. That is very, very clear. So there's one of the scrolls. So we are able to prove that we are who we are, and he says, follow me, I know a secret way. I feel like there was something else we could have done, because Robin didn't automatically board the boat. Alright, so we have rescued the Jester, and another day passes. And a new day begins, and we have 2 costumes now. Alright, so we got a couple of scrolls now in our inventory to take a look at. Scroll of Hand. This is inside the manual for Conquest of Longbow. So to actually see it, like I said, you actually have to have the manual. What I did again is I traced my own hand on this comic board that I was using. So most of most of my recent CR games that I've been playing through, again, because I used to collect a ton of comics back in the day, and 2020 when my wife had all her health issues with her seizure, no longer being able to work, she just recently had back surgery on top of that. It's been chaotic. But I had a bunch of comic bags and a bunch of comic boards, and so when I've been replaying these Sierra games for my channel, I've actually been using the comic boards as notes. So like on one of the Police Quest games, I have a comic board that's covered in notes about police quests, about suspects and stuff like that, and various codes when you're a cop and what you have to call in. Alright, anyway, so back to Conquest Camelot. We're going to come here. We see the Fair Maiden. So we tell her about the King's Fool and how we rescued him and how she's excited to hear that. And then Robin, with his all his great lines, it's like, well, I'd do anything to see you smile. And then we're going to go ahead and give her the hand scroll. And she says, I'm so happy. He goes, well, you can pay me back in a kiss. She says he's so dashing. But again, it flashes real quick, so you kind of see it. But again, this is in the manual. You'll need the manual to do it. You can do what I did and trace your own hand, or you can just draw a hand. So it kind of gives you a demo of how it works. But now we are to give it to the Queen's spy. And so he'll be disguised as a scholar at the fair. And so he'll carry a thing of coat of arms, and she gives you the name of a coat of arms that you need to particularly look for. And that there are spies there who are pretending to be scholars, and you can tell who they are, I found out very quickly, when you see guards appear next to the scholar. So we need the American Kings is what we need. And I'm, again, pretty sure that is randomized, because there's like 20 different coat of arms in the book. So imagine the game randomizes which one you have to get. And if it doesn't, let me know in the comments, because I just assumed it was randomized. So when it told me that I had to, when I had to get that, so in my board here that I have, it says Scholar, Fair, American Kings, and then I drew the shield with the X and the crown on top of the little thing, so I copied how it looks in the book, again for the same reason. I don't want to keep flipping through the book to find when I get to the fair and needing to look it up. So I actually had some notes, and we see that Robin does get lucky with her in the Willows, so they do share an intimate night together. So Robin gets that kiss and much more. For you young kids, they cuddled. And so now we have this net. Earlier when we were walking around the forest, we saw that little wood gnome sphinx thing, not sphinx, but like pixie or sprite, whatever you want to call it. So we need to catch him. And now we read this thing, and it has the names of all these trees, essentially, if you will. And you notice that all their names, each one says a line down. So I forgot what that's called when you have something that basically spells something downwards based off the first letter. So you're going to take the name of each one of those. So Nesoralis. And that will be the answer to the riddle box. It's interesting that they, and again, I was never able to do anything with it. Oh, this dude. So this arcade sequence is painful. You will see, if you watched my playthrough of Heart of China, there is a game where the guy does the clamshells with the ball underneath and you have to keep your eye on it. And you only have so many tries before you lose all your money and the game ends. I tried a number of times, but finally had to slow the game down. Once I slowed the game down, it was very easy to keep your eye on where the ball was under the seashell. I slowed the game down for Conquest of Longbow. You'll see it eventually, where I make it literally crawl and still could not get it. So you'll see that I have the net. I'm literally clicking and it's just not working out for me. So I've slowed it down all the way, but then I've sped up the game and it's still flying through. Like, and it was frustrating because the number of times where I had the net highlighted like this and I go to throw it, he doesn't throw it sometimes and he just ends up walking. But catching this guy is insanely difficult. So you'll see now because I didn't want to, let me tell you, I think it was probably over a half an hour trying to catch this guy. So naturally I didn't want to put all of that into the game. So every once in a while you'll see it cut. So it cut a moment ago where I was standing in one spot, then I moved mysteriously. And it's me splicing out some of the attempts of trying to catch this guy. So again, I clicked, but then it didn't do anything. The level of annoyance of this part was intense. I wish there were, it's like he's already gone. I wish there were a way during this segment that you could hide. Like, so right now it's slowed down. The computer is like, hey, look how slow he's moving. And I got it in front of him. Unfortunately, that means Robin also throws a lot slower. And so you can see how slow he's moving, and then I'm speeding up the cycles as I walk, because that's clearly not helping out. Back to what I was saying, I wish there was something that would have made this easier. Like, for example, if you choose to hide. So it's technically a pixie, all right. But I wish you could hide like behind the bushes, and so that he walks casually through this area versus like running through it. So maybe he runs through it if you're standing, but if you crouch or hide behind the bush, then he just casually walks through and you're able to throw the net. Because this, again, I probably spent over a half an hour, and I think if you watch the regular playthrough, again, that is 6 hours long. Not me trying to catch it, but the whole thing from start to finish. But I'm pretty sure the playthrough portion, I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes. So this is, again, sped up for the commentary version. And it was still pretty long. That was still like almost a minute, minute and a half. So now that we've caught him, he will call the father tree and he'll come out. So we'll need him twice. So he gives, I think it's 3 riddles. Christy Marks, I believe, loves riddles. Because there's also riddles in Conquest of Camelot with the 5 who return to stone. Now that said, saying, typing the answer to what the answer to the riddle is one thing. Trying to spell it through the Druid hand thing, I get that it's a copy protection, but it's not super easy. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is, when you do this, there is no backspace that I can remember finding. And to finish, you always touch the middle of your palm. And when I was doing this, I didn't realize that. So even though I had the answer correct, it told me I was wrong because I didn't touch the palm to end the sentence. Now I understand that you have to click your palm to end the word. And thankfully, like ever since I was young, I used to love riddles, and I think a lot of that, I've probably talked about this during the Conquest of Camelot, a lot of my love for riddles comes thanks to my 4th grade teacher in part. She had read The Hobbit to the classroom, and that was my introduction to like creative anything. And I was engrossed by the scene between Gollum and Bilbo. And so the idea of these riddles really fascinated me when I was in the 4th grade. And I remember reading back then, it's a bunch of very simple riddle books, but it always kind of stuck with me because I liked that creative thinking. And my teacher reading The Hobbit to me, like, literally changed my life. I mean, it's weird to say when you're in the 4th grade, but it really did. By the time she finished reading The Hobbit, I didn't end up checking that book out for 2 years straight. So from 4th, 5th, 6th grade, so part of 4th grade as well, I checked that book out and I read it front to back, back to side, and I would take my favorite parts of it and copy what Tolkien wrote to basically try to train my brain how to not just read that creatively, but then write it and see if I could copy it. And I would take some of my favorite parts and then I would write them in my own words. So if Tolkien described the cave a certain way, I would take that segment and then rewrite it in my own words. So it was plagiarism in a way, but it wasn't like I was publishing this out. I was just trying to learn to write how he wrote because I was so enchanted with the way he wrote. And ever since then, I've wanted nothing more with my life than to be a creative writer. So there's that. Anyway, that explains why I love riddles. But we're on the next day now. So on Conquest of the Longbow. I do that a lot. A lot of these playthroughs, if you've listened to them, I talk a lot about how something in the game sends me down a trail of side notions and stuff like that. So again, having read the King's Jester's note about the trees and their names, the first letter will spell the things down. So it took me a while, like I was trying to figure out what I'm seeing, and then I realized that all the letters of those trees' names were presented here. So you have to do it in the same order in which they're presented, and then that gives you the fire ring. So we now have the water and the fire ring. And we'll need both, but can't use them at the same time. And today is the archery tournament, so this is where you go to the fair and have to do the thing with the scholars and get the correct scholar to talk about the American kings and show us that symbol. Not American, it's American. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It's probably pronounced Mercian, now that I think about it. It's probably Mercian kings. Anyone want to correct me down in the comments whether it's American kings or Mercian? Now that I'm looking at it, it's probably Mercian, because that sounds more exotic. I love that I've played this game since it came out, and I'm literally just learning things, because I'm pretty sure it's Mercian now, now that I look at it. That's what happens when you're from America. Actually, I'm not from America. I'm actually, it's funny, I'm not actually from the US. I've just spent most of my life growing up in the US. So each time it's a new day, you kind of do the same thing, kind of go to all the different areas and see what's different. So we know that we have to go to the fair, and that's where we have to meet the scholars. So we know we have to go there, and plus, you know, it's Robin Hood. Of course, he has to go show off his archery. So let's see if we can go dressed up. And as soon as the guards show up, you know something's wrong. Like, he can still walk, he can actually turn around and walk away. But if you walk by the monk, you'll get caught. Because apparently that's the same exact monk you previously robbed of his robes. So we have to redo this part to get the name and the ring. We actually don't need the ring yet at the fair, but it's shortly after. So we'll try the black robes and see if that works. We'll save the game. Spoiler alert, it's not gonna work out for us. And once again, as soon as we show up, there's a monk and some guards. So you can turn around and leave, you just can't walk in. And they will show up every single time. This time we got ourselves stuck. Try to walk by, and nope. So clearly we need yet another disguise. So clearly we need to kind of hang out by the overlook. And the reason I'm clicking everything is to make sure that I didn't click something previously and then restore prior to that, and then it's not triggering something, so I often do that. So we speed through that dialogue real quick because we already know what they're saying. They're talking about the fair and how everyone's super excited. And there we go. Finally, someone else comes down the road. He's a yeoman, so we're gonna have to take his disguise. And he's going there because naturally he wants to basically compete and see if he can win the golden arrow. And Robin Hood pretty much says, hey, you know what? There's a lot of expert people out there. There's no way you're going to win. I heard that. I forgot what his name is, but some famous archer is going to be there. Why don't I pay 50, or why don't I pay some coin for your clothing, and we'll take your stuff off of you, and I'll go. So once again, blow the horn, get the folks over, and we're going to give him 50 marks for his clothing. That's pretty fun because obviously we've done the 2 monks and then now this. The fact that we need costumes to get in and out of Nottingham, I really like that. I really liked it. Made it fun. So we're gonna save the game. Got a new disguise. We're gonna head for the fair. I'm gonna try this again. Now, I will say, again, you can talk to the animals and stuff, and you can talk to a number of the people here, and they'll give you funny things like this guy talks about Daventry, which is a reference to King's Quest. The 2 sitting over to the right are references to Laurie and Corey Cole. Scott Murphy and Mark Crow are also in here, and Christy Marks is in here as well. So you have to make your way through here and find a scholar. And I'll keep quiet because this part is actually kind of long of me just walking around talking to a lot of people. So I'm not sure what the scholar looks like just yet. But we'll see. We'll see a guy walking around. It becomes very clear that he's a scholar when we click on him. But none of the people just standing about are the scholars. But anyway, I'll mostly keep quiet until something relevant happens. Let's see, Laurie and Corey Cole. That way we can kind of speed through this when I do the post edit and there's silence here. I'll speed that portion up because there's no talking, even though I'm still doing a lot of talking. But anyway, I'll be quiet for now until something pertinent comes up in regards to this area of the fair. So up there we can see, aha, a scholar. Try to give chase. Going that way, I don't know how long it is. Going this way, we just need to go one screen. So shouting to him from a distance isn't going to work. Need to get close. And you can already tell something is up. Because when we talked to this scholar, 2 guards appeared, so clearly this guy's a spy. And not the queen spy, but like the bad spy. And talking to him again is just going to yield the same results. The guards will show up. Alright, so we're going to continue to just kind of walk around. Again, got too close, they recognized the patch. Spent too many times talking to him, so we were quickly discovered. So if you see a scholar and when you approach him, guards appear, just walk away. That's a good sign that the scholar who is speaking with you is a spy, and that's actually a scholar right there that I'm trying to talk to. And so he has the Mercian King symbol. I imagine that's like Mercia, not America. Someone shoot me now. So we were able to talk to him, and we found the scholar. And so, once again, I'll just be quiet for a moment because I talked to a lot of people in the fair. And a lot of them, other than little Easter eggs, don't have a lot to add to the story. Naturally, as soon as I say I'm not going to talk for a minute. So there are 2 beggars that are found in the fair. Giving them coin. Can't remember if that actually does points or anything like that. It does. So it's good to give the beggars the points so that you can get closer to a full score. So it's probably little things like that that I know I probably missed. I know there's this beggar and another beggar, but probably other things like this that I missed, that just a few points here and there. Now there is this person here in the center wearing the black robes and that little tiki hut looking thing. He's actually important. You'll want to get a potion from him, or attempt to. And that is to the left of him, looking at your screen. That is Christy Marks in the yellowish robe sitting at the table. Yellowish, whitish, off-white, tan? I don't know what color you call that. So he's got some scented oils that we can pay for. Then we say we can't personally deliver him, but he will do it for us. And so there she is, Christy Marks. She has put herself in the game. What color robes would you say that is? It's hard to tell. It's like tannish. Let me know in the comments what color you would call that. I feel like this is at, what color is this dress? That was a few years back. Pretty soon that reference won't make sense to anyone. And again, you can see there is another individual who has suffered a great tragedy to their limbs. So the guy on the previous screen, he was missing a leg due to the Crusades, and there's another one here laying on the floor. Same situation. wonder if you can play that game that she just mentioned. I wonder if that was some points that I missed. So again, another individual. Legs was cut. Give him some money. And I don't know if you give him more money, if that gives you more points. Not like repeatedly, but if there's, like I've just been giving him whatever that is, 1/4. So I wonder if giving more will actually give more. The person in that red tent right there, they are a fortune teller. You'll see at first they're kind of vague. But as you begin to question them, they begin to be pretty precise about what they see in your future. Oh, and I should also note, I don't think I've talked about it yet in this playthrough. So you'll notice every once in a while when I get to a point in the save games where it says replace, because I've used up all the slots, what I do is I alt-tab to the game, make a folder, throw those saves in like save game 01, and then go back into the game, escape, and then go back into save. So that way it's a clean slate, and I continue to do that. So I have like save game 02, 03, 04, like folders full of save games. So if you've wondered why, sometimes there's a pause on that screen and then suddenly I come back and there's save game slots. It's because I'm setting them off to the side in case I need them. And a lot of times I will upload them to sierrahelp.com on their forums and make them available there for anyone who might need them or wants to play them and needs to skip to a certain spot. Those save games are typically uploaded there in the threads that I create about my playthroughs. And so we pay him for some scarves, tell him we can't deliver it, he must do it. And I'm pretty sure that kind of wraps up everyone that was in the fair. So we're going to head off, and we're actually going to do the Longbow competition now. All right, in the competition, you can already know what's coming. The infamous split the arrow if you do it correctly. It's very similar to the other thing that we saw earlier where we had to do the archery, where you had to wander around to find it. It's not on the map, which is kind of a shame. I feel like that should be on the map so you can keep going back to it, even though no one's there, to practice your archery before you get to this point. Because we all know Robin Hood is good at archery, but throughout the game, he's really good at killing people, as well as helping people. But I mean, he pretty much always straight shoots people. So here we go. You're going to have to look to the left, watch the wind. Like right now, it's blowing to the right. So you're going to want to wait until you either adjust or wait for the wind to drop. So I always waited for the wind to drop so that I wouldn't have to try to adjust for which way the wind is blowing. Sometimes it took a minute for the flag to drop, but it tended to give the best results. And you can see here by now, I figured out if you just click down on your hand, Robin will reload. So basically that was a trial run to basically get a feel for how it works. You can see over to your right, he did not shoot all that great. If we can maintain what we did a moment ago, we should be able to easily win this contest. Again, just waiting for that flag to drop to no wind and make it easier for myself. Thankfully, there's no time constraint. See, not bad, even with the wind blowing. See, he's not all that great either. You can see I didn't wait for the wind to die down and didn't compensate for the wind, so that messed up one of my shots. So far, so good. We're advancing. And did the perfect score and split the arrow. And so we win the golden arrow. The Prince John, or whatever his name is, offers a position for Robin Hood, and Robin Hood says, no, you know, rather not. Just give me the golden arrow. That's all I need. And this is going to conclude another day. And it talks about how he gave the arrow over to Tuck to basically ransom over so that we can add more coin. Use it, as he says here, for the ransom. Oh, and sorry, it's the sheriff, not the prince. So Robin Hood is concerned that if they don't send the 50,000 marks, we still need to basically raise money. So they start talking about raiding the sheriff's money. So we start off with the new day, and now we have a third costume. We have the black monk robe, the brown monk robe, and now the yeoman. Yeoman? And here we go. There's danger in the woods, which means the guards are patrolling the woods. The sheriff's men have had it. They want to find Robin Hood. So the best thing is the oak tree, if you remember, when we first brought the wood pixie over to him, said, I'll protect you. If you come here, use the language of the druids, I'll protect you. And so the best thing to do, literally, is just teleport to the oak tree and walk 1 or 2 screens away so that you have easy access to get back to the oak tree. And so even talking to her, she talks about the forest is crawling with sheriff's men. So honestly, the best idea is hanging around this tree so they can easily get back to it and get ready to spell. And you'll notice that when the sheriff's men are out and about, after a few tries, you'll see the map disappears, the shortcut map. And so now the sound is coming. It's already too late in this instance. I couldn't remember how to awaken the oak tree, so I should have turned around and ran. Tried to shoot him, but it doesn't matter. They killed me. As a FYI, what you have to do, and this, I think it took me 2 or 3 tries to figure out. 'Cause I think I died a few times because they also came at me when I wasn't near the oak tree, so I wasn't able to get to it quick enough. But what you have to do is click your hand icon on yourself as it. It's gonna sound like Lucius Larry, as if you're touching yourself. But what you're basically doing is you're indicating that you're looking at your hand to speak in the druid tongue or the druid name, from the hand scroll thing. See, there's one of those times where I'm not near the oak tree. Oh, got me again. So now that the men are chasing me, I am at the oak tree. I just need to figure out how to do the oak tree. Like I said, I think it took me 3 tries before I realized you have to click your hand on yourself. Yeah. And you have to spell the tree's name, which is, I believe it's pronounced Duir. D-U-I-R. And see while I get the copy protection, this part is really frustrating. Knowing what you have to spell, but you're just clicking slightly off. Of course, having traced it on this cardboard thing with my own hand, the letter placing might not be perfect, but still, you know what to type, but there you go. If you do it correctly, it turns you into a tree, and after a moment, he says, the dangerous bass fleshling, you can return to your normal self. And so the chasing is over, but this will happen again later on. The sheriff's men will come chasing us again, and we're going to basically repeat the same thing. So with the chase over, as always, go to the overlook, and what do you know? Someone is coming. And this time it appears to be a merchant who bears an uncanny resemblance to the abbot in terms of his face. And so what we're going to do is basically buy out the merchant of his clothes and his merchandise, if you will, his jewelry. And when we do, it took me, I think, two or three times to figure out what to do. Just getting the disguise this time isn't enough. You've done the monk, you've done the other monk, you've done the yeoman, so your face is getting kind of well known out there as Robin Hood, which makes complete sense. So this time clothing isn't gonna do it. So we need more than clothing, which we get from him. I just did not think it through, I think, until the third time. I might have got it on the second time. But there is something extra you have to do other than get his clothing. So one of the things you have to do while you're talking to him is go up and touch him, because it says, I don't have much. But when you do, you can basically feel that he has a bunch of stuff in his pocket. And as you can see, Robin grabs him. And the guy tries to say that, you know, oh, all my jewelry is fake. And upon examining it, you can tell it is fake. But he does manage to pass it off, he says, to the queen. So he finally agrees to basically sell his clothing and jewels with a very good price that Robin pays him for it. In exchange, Jeweler gets some nice green clothes and is told to be on his way. So there we are with our new disguise. I thought it was enough, but you'll see it's not. And if you've not played this game before, would you have tried this, having already fooled the sheriff and everyone 3 or 4 times without doing a little more extra to the costume? It just seemed like the easy thing. So there's Giles and Rogers. It just seemed the easy thing. The costume thing had been working every time we get here. It seems to be working. And we're about to get found out by none other than the Queen when she says it's the archer, the one called Puck. Is it wearing an eye patch? And you try to say, you know, you must be wrong. But she says, no, I definitely recognize that handsome man. So she was attracted to Robin Hood, which is a bad thing when a woman or anyone is attracted to someone, they start paying really close attention to the details. So there's probably something else we need to do. So inside this thing, there's like, I forgot what it's called, but basically you rub it and it'll essentially turn our good man Robin Hood, it'll turn his beard brownish color, so he won't be so obvious. So there we go. You can see his beard is kind of brownish in color. So Hubert calls Roger and Giles to escort us. So we're gonna go ahead and give that to her, and she claims that she can see fake jewelry. But when we show it to her, she's like, oh no, this is real. I know real when I see real. And so instead of handing it to her, you actually have to put it on the table, which is weird, but it's okay. So he offers 50 marks, but she says it's worth way more. And the sheriff yells at his wife, saying, you know, don't say that. And then Robin says, you know, I'll still take the 50 marks. It's fine. But he explains that he tires of carrying all this and that. There is way more, but he can't tell uncouth years. So the sheriff sends the guards away and talks about how Robin talks about how an old dragon with a dragon horde had died, and he, as the jeweler, found its cave, and it's full of all kinds of riches. And he says, you know, I can take you to it, but you have to come alone. Like, I don't want a bunch of men, because if you bring a bunch of men, you don't know if they're going to betray you and try to take the treasure for themselves. And the sheriff finally decides, you know, you're probably right. You can never underestimate greed. So first he won't believe it. When you take the jewelry, she says, John, stop being so stubborn. So we escort the king to this spot and say, hey, we're here. And the king, who is all alone without guards, expecting treasure, asks, where's the cave? And we say, there is no cave. My name is Robin Hood. And he says, if you think I'm alone, I'm not. So they end up taking the king's clothing and send him back on his horse, naked. Well, not naked. He does get to keep his underwear, as you'll soon see. And there we are. The king, well, maybe he doesn't even have his underwear. It's hard to tell because his arm is in the way. He may actually be completely naked. And then Maid Marian visits the camp. So now we have to meet the Queen's Knight. But we'll soon learn nothing is that simple. Not in an adventure game anyway. There is more to do. So with those disguises have been burned, as in we can't use them anymore, excuse me, we go ahead and get rid of all those extra costumes we had. So the Little John comes out, says, hey, the abbot is going to burn Maid Marian at the witch's fire, which if you recall, we went through the maze and found the way to that door, so now we kind of have to do the same thing. But we need to formulate a plan, because we can't just go in there or else we'll die. As we know, they clearly know what Robin Hood looks like. So each of them starts going through about different ideas here in a moment, and you're going to have to choose which one you want. And I think technically, I don't know, I should go back and restore and try them all. But I think technically all the plans will probably work. I think it just depends on how many outlaws you lose. So John wanted subterfuge, which is the idea I like. I like the stealth idea. To me, that indicates less casualty of life, since subterfuge usually requires being sneaky. So we know that there is an easy way into the monastery. It is interesting that this time Robin was able to get to the pub, not disguised, with no problem. So, but anyway, so we get to the pub and we know that the easy way into the monastery is going through here, and then going through that passage to the right, because that'll lead to where the abbot had drank and passed out. First, let's see what happens if we go this way, since I just saved. So if you go that way, it does not end well for you, which is no surprise. As we know, going through here will lead us to the monastery, and then we just go up the monastery and we'll be where we need to be. However, the first time I try to get through the maze, I get to the door right then, but do not get the ring on time. I think I dilly-dallied too long and when I was trying to move through the maze. Honestly, when you get to this part, the best thing to do is use the keyboard to move Robin Hood. Don't use the mouse, because there's times where you click north and he'll walk south and stuff like that, where the map, the passage is to the far left or right. So you can already tell I hit one dead end, so that's already costing me time. Unfortunately, did not get the ring on in time. This time the plan works out. Now what I don't know is where Robin took Marion, because like there's talks about 4 stone walls earlier, and he heads, I'll call it south because it's southern end. So she seems to be dying. Connect the heart again, and gives her life once more. So the password we need to know, and again, this is probably also randomized, but it doesn't require the copy protection of the manual, except other than the hand thing and the letters. So now the secret word is voyage. All right, so we still have to get the Queen's Knight, who we'll see over by the Overlook like we see everyone else. However, the individual we meet is clearly farce, as in he is not the real knight. Go ahead and call everyone, formulate some plans. So we go with our plan, and this is where I was talking about earlier about the Wilhelm scream just being layered over itself multiple times. It is pretty hilarious. And I love the scenery in the background of the guard being chased. So we managed to stop the treasure from York, and we get the 50,000 marks. And we lost no one, so we still have our 34 outlaws. So it's the next day, and now we're waiting for the Queen's Knight. And once again, it would seem that the soldiers are about. So we're going to do the same trick we did before. We're going to head over to the oak tree, kind of go a screen or 2 away from it. And unfortunately the men showed up when I was nowhere near the oak tree. So the map is gone, so that means the guards are out and about. Just an unfortunate situation. So I need to make my way to the oak tree. And dead again. So we hear the guards. Now it's time to do our disguise. Now we're once again safe. And that is the only 2 times that the guards tried to find you. Again, when it happens, just if you're playing, go to the oak tree and just stay 1 screen away from him. That way you can easily get back. So now we're going to go to Lookout, where we see Little John has confronted someone who appears to be the Queen's Knight. Robin calls him a false knight and puts an arrow through him. So when you search him, he's got a letter with him. That kind of ensures that he is guilty of what he's trying to do. So even though we just sent them away, we call them back. So now we gotta go save the knight. As I went to, though, it ends. We go back to the camp. Everyone's upset that the sheriff's men keep trying to search the woods. Alright, so it's time to go save the knight. We know he's held at the monastery. So with the watering on, we can command the fairies, who we can tell that, or they tell us that there's a prisoner. And they say they'll be right back. They'll bring us a boat. And they say follow us and they'll guide us through the fog, otherwise we'll be lost forever. Right, so we get out of the boat, and the fairies say they'll keep the boat from sailing away. As we go to touch the vine, it breaks. So now we need to figure out what to do. Now, I was doing the DUIR, thinking that all the roots and all that stuff are connected. Wasn't until after quite a bit that I decided, you know what, let me look in the manual. And sure enough, the manual lists a number of plants. Not going to go through them all, but for example, the rowan is known as the Lewis, the ash is known as neon, elder is known as Ruis, the oak is known as Dur, and ivy is known as Gort. So here I am typing in the oak's name when actually the name I need to do is Gort. And I did not know that until after I looked at the manual again. So once more, having the manual really helps. Also, I should say reading the manual sometimes before the game will really help, because this would have probably cut down on some time of me opening up this a number of times, trying to see what might be here. But if you notice, Gort is not mentioned in this. But if you open up, again, the manual, Gort is mentioned in here. There's other ones, like the U is known as Idaho, which is in that poem and stuff like that. So once I cracked this open, saw the ivy connection, I was like, oh, we need ivy. And sure enough, once you do the Gort thing, then it knows what to do. Very thankful they didn't go King's Quest 2 route and make it so you had to climb this ivy in some crazy way. So now we're here with the true knight. Give him the letter, and you can see that he was set up. But he can't read. So he needs something else. And took me a little bit to remember, but he needs the secret word of voyage. Which, the longer the word, the more difficult it is to spell on your palm. Honestly, the fact that there is no backspace. So annoying. Apparently druids never thought that as you're touching your palm you might make a mistake in how you spell something. And to say, oh, let me reverse that, like a circle on the top of your palm saying, take that letter back. Let me undo that letter. So this is the arcade sequence that I was talking about, in which descending down the vines, I could not get it to work. No matter what I did. I was trying the down key, I was clicking down, I was clicking up, in case it was like some weird inverted access thing. I could move left to right, and that responded exactly how I would expect. But these guys were throwing rocks pretty quick. So if you were actually able to successfully descend without turning the arcade sequence down, feel free to let me know in the comments how it's done, because I couldn't get it to work. I even did the same trick where I slowed down the game, and you'll see it soon, where I... There are times I feel like they waited to throw until I moved. See? Anyway, so if you know how to descend without turning the arcade sequence out, how to make Robin go down it. If it's clicking the down arrow, I did it with the arrow keys, and I also tried it with the numpad. Neither of them worked. I don't know if you just have to keep moving side to side, and he slowly makes his way down as he's going side to side, like that's how he's descending. If that's the case, that might be it, because I certainly could not figure it out with how quickly these guys were throwing stones, and how the stones often bounce at a very weird angle suddenly and struck me. So I think this is where I ended up clipping it. It's one of these where I ended up clipping it, and I was like, okay, turning the arcade sequence down. That's it. Yeah. This was where I turned the speed all the way down. Can't seem to get past 3 rocks. Or sometimes 2. See, it looks like he descended a little bit right there, but I don't know how I did that. So I ended up turning the arcade and the speed, and he just automatically descends. Which by this point I was done, because again, I clipped out. I think I died over 20 times trying to descend. So I could have really done without that arcade sequence. And this pretty much begins the ending, because with the Queen's Knight rescued, everything begins to fall into place, and the rescue effort and the ransom is paid. It's a really cool image too. But things go poorly because in the spring of 1194, I think it was, the sheriff's men managed to catch Robin Hood, and they string him up, ready to let him die. However, at that moment, King Richard races in, chopping down those who oppose him, and asks, "What is going on, Sheriff?" And Sheriff tries to say, Robin Hood's like a thief, and he stole from us, and he did all these bad things. But Robin Hood is like, that's not the case. We were out there trying to raise money for your ransom. We helped a bunch of people. And the king is like, you know what? Let's have this go to trial and do this proper. And this is that trial. And a number of people will speak up if you help them along the road. So if you don't help them, probably goes poorly for you. So you have the abbot who's talking against you. And the monk who talks about, yeah, Robin Hood, you know, and his ruffians stole my robe. And there's the, I forgot what his name is, it starts with a P. But he's that one monk guy speaking out. But then the king's own jester speaks on behalf of Robin and the rescue efforts. And then the widow talks about how Robin Hood saved her 3 sons. The peasant woman talks about how she helped him. The poacher who we helped talks about how he was saved by Robin Hood when the king's men were going to arrest him for killing the king's deer or elk, whatever it was. That's the yeoman. And then they actually use the word slut, which I thought, bold move, but this was the 80s, and the 80s were very, very different. But I was surprised the word slut got through on this game, because they didn't even use that in Police Quest, where one of the women, Marie, was a lady of the night. That was her occupation, and that word never got thrown out that I remember. So when I played this again, like probably when I've played it earlier before, you know, like when it first came out a few times after that, it probably did not bother me because I was probably still playing it 80s, 90s, and it'd been a long time since I played this game again, because you have to break out the manual until recently getting it on GOG, where it's all on PDF. When I saw the word slut in there, I was like, ooh, they went with it. So that was a bit of a shock. But you can see that the king sides with Robin based on all the testimony, and he is pardoned. And Robin ensures that all of his men are pardoned. And Robin asks for the Maid Marian's hand, and the king says, "Do you agree to it?" And she says, "I do." And so good old Tuck is the one who officiates the wedding. You can see our people kind of sitting there. And that's it. That is the end of Conquest of Longbow. Hopefully you enjoyed this commentary. I did a lot of talking this one, I feel like. A lot of talking. As always, I always try to speed up portions where I didn't talk, so that way there isn't just a bunch of dead air. But if you liked it, please click like and subscribe. Pass the good word around. If you have social media and you enjoyed the video, please share it around. Encourage other people to check it out. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that I can monetize the channel. I don't hope to make a bunch of money, but I talked about it a little bit earlier. In 2020, my wife had a seizure and was found unresponsive here at home. And since then, she's not been able to work. She's going through a bunch of physical therapy, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, too late. I'm the sole provider for money, so what would be cool, and I don't expect to make much out of it, but using this channel to basically make some extra change. I love doing these games, not doing, but playing these games and doing these commentaries. So even if I don't get to monetize it, it's fine. But if I can, that'd be fabulous. But I'm trying to reach that 1,000 because that's kind of like the safe spot that they always say. And I'm at like 900 and I think 20. So I think I got 80 more to go, and I'll hit that 1,000 subscribers, and then I'll try to turn around and monetize the channel. So again, if you like it, click like, subscribe, pass it around, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dogs, tell whoever will listen. And most importantly, thank you for hanging out. And if you have any comments, please leave comments. I love responding to folks who check out the channel. So I'm always super appreciative of everyone who gives me their time. Right, have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, a wonderful evening. Have a good one. Don't forget to click like and subscribe though if you're still listening.